Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, and in today's video I am just going to jump right into it. We are making a character sheet or a character species sheet for the Atredoor people, which are a humanoid species that inhabit my new continent of Lusorn in my fantasy novel book series. So just jumping right in, I'm getting a general shape and feel for these people down. I wanted them to definitely be humanoid so I could still have my audience relate to them as a people, but I also wanted, to give them very animalistic features. I imagined them to have these very, rounded cow-shaped ears and these intimidating antlers that would really give them a menacing feel to them, because these people rule over a desert with an iron fist. I wanted to give them the appearance of people that you would just take one look at and be like, okay, we need to get out of here. They are very unkind to strangers. They take pride in who they are as a people, and they just, they would really rather keep to themselves than have to deal with outsiders. So I really wanted to put something like that in just the general design. And I know antlers can, be seen as something that are normal, in the real world. Like, I didn't give them like crazy dragon horns, but it was just something that I imagined straight off the bat when I was trying to create this species. Like, I just had an image in my head and I wanted to completely just get that across. So basically with these people, I'm just designing a very average citizen right now, which is why I'm giving them very simple pants, but the clothing will come up later when I design the 5 different mock-ups for just general different apparel in their society. But for right now, I really just want to touch on them as a people. So, first and foremost, the Atredoor are men and men only, because just as the nymphs are in my world, nymphs are only female, so I really wanted to kind of parallel that, not only for an aspect in my story, which will be in the Mother Dragon book whenever I decide to write that one, but I also wanted to kind of challenge this world of mine and see how far I could push the boundaries with things. So the Atredoor people, since they are only men, I had to think of a very, interesting reproductive system for them. So instead of actually having them reproduce as like a normal person would, what I did was basically whenever an elder dies, they are placed into an almost religious hole in the ground, which is basically a fire pit that is naturally burning from the magic of the earth inside of it. Because in my novel series, the earth emanates this very strong and powerful magic from its core. So I figured they would place the elder, dying Atredoor in the fire pit almost as a religious ceremony, and from its ashes would be born a new Atredoor baby. So basically, following up this, I had to think of general, day-to-day life and what do they do? I can't just have this, crazy society of, demon desert people and not follow up on, how do they take care of these new children? How do they raise them? What is going on in this society? So basically, the society of the Atredoor people is heavily, centered around warriorship and to become one of, basically a protector of their land. The majority of people in this society and species fight and protect their land. And it's very odd because I have never imagined these people to actually have had a circumstance when someone or a different nation comes into their land and tries to take it. I feel like it's more of just a pride over their entire civilization. Like, they genuinely love their desert so much and take so much religious, importance in it that no matter what, they will never even risk having outsiders inside of this land. So right now, as you can see, I'm starting to draw up these different tools. I figured when I'm thinking about day-to-day life, I might as well think of items they might need for different activities. So first of all, we have this, well, right here, I'm actually drawing a clip, which might seem like a random item, but it's actually important. They use these clippers or, prongs, I'm not even sure what to call them, but they use them to clip off parts of their horns, especially because like they have antlers. I assume antlers would get in the way of a lot of things, especially when walking through doorways or even just passing through brush, so they use those to help. First of all, elderly Atredoor, because their horns grow more and more as they get old, and also predominantly during puberty. So, of course, they would try and limit how large they would grow, although this varies. Usually, warriors are allowed to have their horns grow out as, far and as wide as they need for that particular intimidation tactic. And so is royalty. Royalty are very highly regarded, and also there is a very strong sense of, well, royalty can just do whatever the hell they want. So, they've decided over generations that they will be allowed to keep their antlers. The other items that I am drawing, I will get a little bit into later, because I'm going to start on the outfits of the different kinds of people, which I'm so excited to talk about. So right now I'm drawing the kind of average Atredoor man, which are usually shirtless and only wearing pants. This is mainly because it's very hot in the desert, they need that function and mobility, but the baggy pants are also just a silhouette I wanted to keep to kind of set them apart from other cultures, because none of my other cultures wear pants like this. It was more of a design choice than an actual, cultural one, in my own opinion. Next, we are going into the warrior, which I wanted to give this grand kind of more, almost royal look to them. They are just the most important people in the society. I wanted to make their pants a little more elaborate, a little more closed at the cuff at the bottom, and also give them this beautiful necklace that almost symbolifies that they are a warrior. And their hair is always tied back in that particular, I don't even know what to call it, like a bun or a tie, but that's also for mobility. Next, right here, I am working on a doctor or a shaman or priest. I'm not really sure what I'll call them yet, but I wanted to give them a more mystical look. So I gave them a layered skirt with little bells on the ends and a more, wrapped around collared necklace, that differs from the warrior, but is still a status symbol. And next we are working on the upper class citizen. I knew I wanted a very, hierarchy kind of society. So I figured to add on to the doctor shaman look, I would give them layered skirts with different patterns and definitely more fabrics that are harder and rarer to come across in this society. When I color them, I'll also add on to this more. But I also wanted to touch on just, you can look at them and tell they are more well off than the average citizen or even the warrior. Next, we will be also moving on to the royalty, which is called the Meljul. That is basically what the royal family and the leader of the society is called. I wanted them to have this elaborate, striking outfit where you could tell and just look at them that they are pampered. They do not have to go out and fight to, serve this, society of theirs, which seems odd because the warriors are so highly regarded, but royalty on its own is a blood of these people that is said to come from the very first Atredoor people that were born from this eternal flame in the earth. They're pure as can be. And basically, their word is respected without thought. So I wanted them to basically have this look that simplified that they do not need to do anything to even be considered allowed to wear these expensive, rare garments. They are just rich as can be and the most powerful people in this society, without question. Like, they don't need to get to this higher status to earn these titles and these things. And now we are moving on to jewelry, which I wanted to also be a big aspect in culture. They are in an area of the world that is rich in gold and minerals and gems and jewels, so I figured, jewelry would be a very important thing that I could add into culture. Usually average citizens or lower class citizens do not tend to wear elaborate jewelry. They usually only have the nose bridge kind of piercing, but these more elaborate ones that I'm doing for the nose rings and for the earrings are definitely centered around wealth and status. Mostly shamans and royalty wear them. But here we are designing the Atredoor warrior neck piece. I'm not really even sure if it's a necklace, but I just know I wanted it to be, just very bold in its design. The way that it goes all the way up to the chin and travel all the way down the shoulders. It's also supposed to be made of a type of dragon scaled or dragon skinned leather, which is also important because the kinds of dragons that they live around are highly regarded in their religious purposes. They are just these beings that are said to be connected to the rain goddess or the goddess of the moon, which I will touch on probably in another video of the gods and goddesses in my world, because in different cultures some desire to worship the moon, the sun, the great red star, the dragon Alcava, the mother dragon. And speaking of the mother dragon, the Atredoor people very much worship the mother dragon, which in that little belt design I will get into later, as it symbolizes that and other aspects of their society. So with the color, first of all, I want to put out there, I am a traditional artist. I do not usually use digital art, and so my coloring is going to seem very cheap, but I still wanted to, show you guys what my general feel for them was. And like I said, when I first imagined these guys in my mind, I wanted to give them this very deep, almost caramel to light orange kind of feel. Not only the play on the fact that they live in a desert and that's kind of just the colors of a desert, but also to play on the fact that they are fiery, and that's kind of like the main element that they are, symbolizing. And so I also wanted to definitely give them range in skin color. I thought it would be so boring if I just had them be one shade of orange or burnt orange. So I wanted to bring across the board that there are different, skin tones and colors in this society, but it does not usually determine anything about the, upper class or lower class or anything like that. It's more of just a little, like diversity. And so see different variations of spots and patterns on their skin. But I also wanted to show that above the forehead and the bridge of the nose, the shoulders, and the hands, there are, color differences that I did want to add. So after we get past the antlers, we move to the actual clothing, which actually does have a huge part to play in the society and the standards and the how rich you are, how upper class or how poor you are in the society. So basically the minerals and the berries and the fruits and things that they get these colors from are mostly, dependent on rarity versus how common they are. Common colors range from very dark purples to light purples, but the lighter you go and the more blue, these colors that are soaked into the fabric go, the more pure and important these minerals are, which I will also touch on later on some of the crystals that I did. So I wanted to give each and every one kind of like its own different, not only color system, but also keep different colors in all of the designs, because I just figured they all live in this one, unified place. They have one capital palace, one giant society in this place. So I figured it would be very odd if I differentiated colors and did different things for each of them. which is why I'm using mostly the same colors throughout each ones, except for, like I said, these lighter blues. And for royalty and upper class citizens, they have these very, very light blues. Royalty, on the other hand, usually wear the lightest shades of these blues, like I said, because they come from the rarest, most, promised and sought after jewels and gems. And also, these little bands on the arms, they are also a gold piece of jewelry that are only for those who have earned the status, which is why the average citizen does not have them. They are gifted to only warriors, shamans, upper class, and royalty. And usually royalty actually wear 2 to 3 of these armbands, but I forgot to draw it in, so, my bad. At least I'm doing the voiceover. And you might wonder, why are these things, so important in society? Why do they have these hierarchies and these things? And it's mainly because of, like I said earlier with the royalty, the purity of blood. Usually those who are born from ancestors who are already, not really important in society or pure Atredoor as before them, are always going to be regarded that because of their blood and who they, were birthed from in the fire. Next, we are moving on to the Atredoor neck piece, which, like I said before, comes from the scales and the skin leather of these rain dragons. Basically, the rain dragons will be touched on more in my Draka encyclopedia novel, which details over the different dragon species on Akera and Lucerne. And I know this all may sound a little confusing for someone who has never actually been a part of my universe and stuff before, but I will post a lot more videos on this. So, regardless if you can read my novels or not, which are not published, so it's very hard to read them, then yeah, I will definitely make other videos so you can understand this world of mine that I have created. And so, touching up on the belt that I had talked about earlier, the triangles and everything like that are very symbolic, the colors especially. So, the purple band on the bottom of the triangles symbolizes basically the moon. And basically, the moon in their society is very connected with the mother dragon, as Melissadeth, or Melikadeth in the Atredoor language, was the first person they saw to ascend to the moon. And the sun symbolizes her as well, because she had first found the desert through the means of following the Harpy, which are, the sun's children and their messengers. Now, you might have noticed that the average citizen is sporting this band, and that is because regardless of how pure your blood is, regardless of where you come from, religion in this society and following the mother dragon in Melikadeth is something that they take such pride and just, they have this unity about it, where it doesn't matter who you are, this religion to them and their land and where they live is something so important, Like, shamans will go through the streets and just, preach about, the returning of the mother dragon, and will go on and, try and speak to these lower class citizens, regardless if they, get to wear these expensive garments and get to live in the palace with the Meljul. It's just, the symbol that everyone is allowed to bear. This symbol that everyone is allowed to, respect and praise and worship. And it's just such a big part of their society that even the lowest, poorest people are still allowed to bear this symbol. And as I was saying earlier, we are going to swing back around to these items that are, that have really gone without explanation except for the horn clippers. So basically this is just an assortment of weapons and knives and everyday kind of tools except for the Atreidian sword. You know, right here I'm detailing a jaw of probably some sort of oasis alligator or creature. I'm not really sure yet, but that's just used in everyday sawing and cutting for materials. And here I'm actually doing the blades and stuff. And I wanted to give the Atredoor sword a Damascus look, but, you know, I was a little bit too afraid to do that in digital artwork. I wanted to keep it very simple and clean cut. And here are the gems. This is the crystal that grows in the caverns of the desert and the rock and the rocky parts of the desert that are so praised and sought after. You know, only royalty get to wear these crushed up mineral colors. And then we also did the scales of the dragons, the rain dragons, which can be used in different various medicinal purposes or religious practices. And we also did the purple gem, which is the most common of the minerals found, which is why they are in the more average kind of, you know, everyday clothing that you would see. And though the warriors do usually wear this very common color in their clothing, even though they are so highly regarded, their swords are always brandished with the most light, beautifully colored silk that only royalty are allowed to wear. Also, like I touched on earlier, we are going to be adding these speckles and kind of just like these really prominent patterned freckles that go across all of the Atredoor's skin. I really wanted to give it a darker kind of reddish color, but like I said, I am just not the kind of person to be good at digital art. But either way, thank you so much for watching all the way until the end. You know, I'm trying to get better with my art and my storytelling, and I just really appreciate that you guys have stuck around for this. And, you know, I hope to make more videos soon, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.